Welcome to URBONUS podcast, everyone. I'm glad to welcome my special lineup for this episode, Mr. Errick McCollum and Shane Larkin. So, hello, gentlemen. How are you? Crazy day for you, Shane, right?
Yeah, crazy day for me, man. Crazy day, but glad that I could finally get on here, talk up with you guys. So glad to be here.
Yes, we appreciate you coming on. Always a pleasure. I'm still a little salty about how y'all did it in the finals, but I'm a good sport. Welcome y'all. Y'all beat us fair and square, man.
It was definitely a tough matchup for sure. Tough matchup, but I'm glad we could get that one. So we'll see.
Yeah. We have a lot of connections on this podcast. You see Galatasaray jersey on Eric's back. He played for Ergin Ataman, now former coach of Shane Larkin. Those two guys played each other in the Turkish League finals. So a lot of things in common, a lot of things to discuss tonight, to be honest. We have like Nikola Mirotic, 1 foot in Partizan Belgrade, where Kevin Punter remains. We have Kostas Sloukas moving to Panathinaikos. We have Zvezda signing Shabazz Napier, Facundo Campazzo returning to Madrid, Willy Hernan Gomez coming to Barca, and a lot of movement the last couple of weeks that we will discuss in this episode. But Shane, I have a question for you first. How do you feel watching all these off-season moves, and how do you feel about your team in this EuroLeague off-season picture?
Well, I could say probably since I've been in the EuroLeague, this is probably the most turnaround I've seen in a season from year to year in terms of where guys are going and how different the league is going to look next year. So it's exciting times. Obviously, a lot of key players have left, gone new places, changed jerseys. So I think it'll be an exciting season. Coaches on the move. So, we'll see how it all plays out, but I think it's good for the league. I think, being able to see different people in different places and bring different opportunities to those different clubs and different countries is going to be good for the league. And for our team, we've kind of been set in stone for 5 years. And obviously with Coach leaving, now Vasa leaving, and a couple of our other guys who have been around for the last couple of years, it's definitely going to be new for us. But, I think we signed a great player in Darius. And obviously the other guys that we signed are obviously great players as well. But I think the biggest thing for us was to be able to replace Vasa, obviously. And I think if there was a guy out there on the market that we could have gotten, I think he was the best option. And I've been a big fan of his. Actually, since we saw them play, we played against him actually in Antalya. I think he was a local at that time. And, I saw that he had the talent to be, in the EuroLeague. And obviously he's done a great job getting here. I'm so excited to see what that looks like. Obviously, Tyreek Jones, and I can go through all the guys on the roster now. But, I'm excited to see what those guys can bring to our team and what, kind of differences that creates for Efes. And, see how this whole thing comes together. New coach. Obviously, I've talked to him a lot over the last couple of weeks, which is different for me to have that kind of relationship with the coach, talking about roster and, system and different things like that. It's a different approach as opposed to what, Coach Ataman has kind of implemented over the last 5 years. So I'm excited. And, I'm getting up there in age as well. I'm about to be 31 this season. So we'll see how it all goes.
Hey, don't worry. Players over 30, they get paid a lot in EuroLeague, so
especially this summer. Especially this summer. So
I hope they keep doing it. I love to see the old guys get it. Hang on as long as you can, Shane. Hang on.
Hey, I feel you, dog. As a small guard, you know how that is, though. So.
By the way, we have a BN Plus platform where fans all over the world can become our subscribers on basketnews.com/plus to get more exclusive content. And one of the features includes a possibility to make questions to our guests. So I'll deliver a question from Adrian Avjner, who has a question about Darius Thompson. So Shane, how your game might change after spending 4 years with Vasa and now when you're about to play with Darius Thompson, who has a different game than Vasa?
That's difficult to say without being on the floor with him and seeing what kind of system we're going to have. If Coach Ataman was still around, I would probably be able to put it together more in my mind of how I'm going to try to make it work. But obviously Coach Adam John is gonna bring in a new system and have his own strategies and things that he wants to do. But for what I could tell, he just played with a guy that's, very similar to me in ways, Marcus Howard in Baskonia, and they were able to share the floor together. And, I think he led the EuroLeague in assists this year. So, a guy who likes to play at a high pace, high tempo, which, I'm very accustomed to doing. And I think the transition is going to be seamless. Obviously, Voss is a different size, different kind of player in the way that he goes about, his business on the court. But I think Darius has a lot of similarities in terms of how he wants to play pick and roll, pass the ball up the floor, play with pace, transition, offense. And, as talking to the coach, he also wants to kind of play that way. So I think it's going to be a seamless fit. I don't think he's a selfish guy at all. I think he's a team first guy. And, I'm just excited to see how it all fits and works together.
Yeah, I think you'll love playing with him. Just from some of the stuff like I had as a backcourt mate with him. I think he's going to free you up to be the scorer that you are. You will always score throughout your career, but I think you was trying to balance in playmaking duties and scoring duties, basically because I had so many scorers, so many, guys that could get busy. I think with Darius, you're going to be able to play as a scorer. You're going to be able to not have to worry about setting up as much because he's a true point guard. Basa is a great point guard, but he's a scoring point. So I think Darius will set y'all up more. Y'all probably will play better in transition because he's really fast with the ball. You're fast with the ball. Will's really good in transition. Y'all might get up and down more based on how he did things at Telecom as a coach. A lot of middle pick and roll. He likes those elbow ball screens where you're getting the ball and you're getting middle pick and rolls from those elbow extended areas, usually far out. Especially if Tyreek Jones is rolling to get that lob threat. I imagine he'll put a strong shooter on the wing side. He usually would have Cecina, who was the 4-man shooter.
Right.
Maybe he'll have the new 4-man you guys signed, or another person in that corner who can really keep the spacing. But I'm curious to see. I think it's going to be special. I think y'all always had the pieces, always had the talent. I always think a team that's been together for a long time needs a new injection of youth mixed with the experience, because youth is excited. They want to learn. This is their first time there. So days when maybe the older guys are feeling a little bit, the younger guys give me life, as a 35-year-old. So I think that balance will take y'all to another level. And, I'm curious to see, how the season plays out.
Yeah, I think everything you said is exactly right. He likes to play fast. And like you said, trying to balance with another guy who's kind of a combo with Vasa, trying to score and assist and get everybody involved. I think now with Darius, I'll be able to focus more solely on scoring, which, I try to play the game the right way all the time. So I won't go out there and say I'm going to lead the league in shot attempts at all. But, just being able to play up and down, play fast, and, play with more of a true point guard, I think definitely is going to free me up, as you said. So I'm excited and ready to see how it all works out.
What was your impression of new coach Erdem Can and how he going to change the FS team? And what did you take from those conversations?
I think he has he was with Obradovic for a long time. And obviously he spent some time in the league. So I think he has Ataman was a very old school coach, in terms of like, this is what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And, there's going to be some disagreements, but at the end of the day, I'm going to stick to what I know. And, the guys had success, so you can't really blame them. I think the difference with Erdem Can is that he's trying to figure out exactly who he is as a head coach. I think he has his ideas and his principles as to what he wants to implement, but I think he's more open to, talking to his players, communicating with his players and seeing how they feel on the court and what's working for them, and just having more of a partnership. He always talks about having a partnership, like, I'm on the team with you guys. I'm not sitting at the top, pointing down, telling all you guys what you have to do. He says he's in the locker room with us. He's a teammate, and he wants it to feel that way. He wants it to feel like everybody can have open conversations with him. And, he's going to be demanding. But, any new coach coming into a situation like this where, I don't think anybody has the idea outside of Efes that, we're chasing titles. I don't think he's coming in here with any different kind of idea. So I think that'll be the biggest difference between Ataman and him, is just, I think Coach Ataman is more set in his ways and what he likes to do and what he believes in. And I think Erdem Can is more open to different ideas and trying to see exactly how it's going to fit with this team and how he wants to make it work, and being able to adapt and make changes along the way.
And by the way, Shane, just to wrap up this incredible era that you had with Efes, with Ataman, with Vasa, there was this question by BN Plus member Dargo. He wanted to hear what was the difference in Efes last year and their championship years. How do you see that situation right now?
I'm not a guy who's big on excuses. So I'm not going to sit here and try to blame, a bunch of outside factors that kind of got in the way. I just don't think we had enough time with that group that we had this past year to kind of mesh and gel and figure out exactly how it all would have worked together on the court. Obviously, when you add somebody of Will's caliber, a guy who can lead the league in scoring, who can play with the ball, play without the ball, play in the post, I think we never really just had the time to kind of put it all together. I missed, the first 17 games of the year with my hand. And then I came back for a couple of games, and Vasa was out for, 3-4 weeks with his knee. So I just don't think we had that continuity that we needed in order to kind of figure it out during the regular season. And, towards the end of the season, we got much better. And I think into the Turkish playoffs, it kind of did start to click in the ways that it needed to. And I think we finished the season really strong. And now, obviously, Vasa has taken a great opportunity to go to the NBA and, chase that dream. So, things start over. But I think if we were able to keep that group together for another year, going into a season of us knowing each other, knowing how we could play off of each other on the court, off the court, being friends, I think we would have had much more success in the second year than the first. But, it's unfortunate that we won't be able to do that. But at the same time, I'm extremely happy for Vasa and proud of him that he's been able to make that jump and take that challenge on. So I think that was just the biggest thing. The last 5 years, we kind of had the same guys doing the same thing. Everybody knew their roles. And I think this year, it was just kind of everybody did know what their roles were, but it was just kind of like it wasn't as strong or as together as it needed to be. And I think that was where our fallouts came from.
To be honest, we expressed our concerns over Vasa's fit in EuroLeague with Eric in the previous pod with Kevin Punter. What was your advice to Vasa heading to the NBA, or what would be your advice for Vasa? Because I know that you guys probably spoke about this NBA fit together throughout these years. He wanted to hear your opinion since you've been there. So what were the main points? What did you try to, aware him before this move?
I just told him kind of things that I felt based on my experience with the NBA. With him going there, he was asking me just questions about how should he be, how should he play, what should his mindset be. And I told him, you have to go there with the same exact mindset as you do have here in Efes. Like, you got to go there with the idea to be aggressive every time you catch the ball. Don't take a possession off. And defensively, you just have to show yourself and show that you're able to switch and guard your yard and, be able to rotate and do all the things that they're going to ask him from defensively. But offensively, I just told him to be you. I think that anybody who's kind of been in both situations will understand that he's going to have a different role over there in the NBA, but it can't change who he is as a player. And that's probably one of the things that I told him my biggest regret was that when I went to the NBA, I kind of thought like, oh, now I'm playing with, Vince Carter, Sean Marion, Dirk Nowitzki. Like, I gotta get them the ball and kind of get out the way. Like, they're the all-stars, they're the superstars. They've been in the league for these 12, 15, 20 years. And, I'm just this 20-year-old rookie coming out, first, second year, third year, playing with guys in Dallas and New York and Brooklyn. And I never really felt like I took advantage of the opportunity to just be me. And that's what I told him he doesn't want to feel. You don't want to feel like you didn't go over there and try to be yourself. You don't want to go over there and be like, oh, now I'm Vasa, the past first point guard who's just going to not be aggressive and take my side step threes or whatever the case is. You have to go out there and be you, because if you're not going to do that, you're going to regret it at the end of the day. So that's kind of just been my advice to him, is just be yourself, be true to who you are. And what's the worst that can happen? Like, you come back to Europe and you're the highest paid guy and you're going to whatever team you want to go to. Like, what's the worst case? So just go out there, be yourself, play hard, be you, and kind of see how it goes.
Good advice.
Yeah, interesting new chapter coming up both for Vasa and new look Efes team. But let's talk about the EuroLeague picture that I mentioned at the start of the podcast. So I just want to hear your first reaction to Sloukas' transfer bomb from Olympiacos to Panathinaikos.
I mean, initial reaction is speechless. Forget the money, forget whatever the years, forget all of that. It's just what he's represented to that club. You know, after he left years ago, went to Fener, to go back and then to be in the Final Four with them and take them back to that place where, you know, they had been accustomed to being, then to, you know, make that kind of jump and go basically across the street to the other team was just like, was super surprising to me. I did not see that happening. I personally thought he was going to go back to Fener. I thought that was going to happen if he were to leave Olympiacos, especially with the Tudors being there. But yeah, I was speechless, and you know, congrats to him. And if that's something that he wants to have to deal with on a daily basis, living there, good luck. And I hope he has a lot of success this season. But hey, man, I've seen those. I haven't even lived there. I haven't been part of that like rivalry, but you can just see it from the outside, like the passion, the how much it means. Even if, like, let's just say Panathinaikos hasn't been that great in EuroLeague the last couple of years, but when they play, it's regardless, it's electric in there. And you know, for him to be like one of the main cogs of Olympiacos the last few years and his whole, you know, career with the ties that he's had to Olympiacos, to make that jump at this stage of his career after, you know, the way they lost in the championship this year, it's just like a lot of things that I was just like, that was a ballsy move right there. And kudos to him, and all respect to him as a player and as a person. I have no problems with him at all, but I think that was just a very out there move. And if he's ready for that, then, you know, the best of luck to him, and I hope everything goes well.
Yeah, for me, there was like three things that stuck out. I always try to look at things as a player, and then, you know, as a GM or as the team. So as a player, just with the rivalry, like you mentioned, the hostility, the things going through, I'm thinking like, not only my player, I'm a father. I have two kids. You know, there's certain things that I don't want my family and my kids to have to deal with. And that was one of the reasons why I thought maybe he wouldn't go to Panathinaikos, just because that day-to-day hostility that he would receive, that his family would receive. And, you know, you almost feel, I played in Greece. You know, sometimes when things get going between that rivalry, you almost feel unsafe. And, and then another thing that gave me pause was his age. I figured at 33 years old, you know, he would think, I spent so many years in my youth at Olympiacos, all this time, I'm probably not going to leave, just because we had success. We're right there. We're inching closer and closer to that title. But then the other part of me was the minutes, how Bartzokas does things. He does an excellent job, but I don't think no player wants to play 10 minutes in a row and then sit out 10 minutes in a row and then play 10 minutes in the third and then sit out the fourth. Like, there was times throughout the game where he, for sure, was an excellent coach, did great, but sometimes guys are hot or in the flow, and he'll sub them out and continue with that same rotation regardless of what's happening in the game. And that's something that could be really frustrating, you know, when you're rolling. You know, we saw it with Isaiah Cannon when he was hot against Madrid. I feel like maybe he should have on the court more. He was dominating the game. He was out in crucial moments. These are things that were happening throughout Sloukas throughout the year, and he's feeling like, I'm the captain. I'm probably now the face of the team. There's probably a certain level of disrespect. So then the next thing is the money. Like, the money is big, and it takes you 3 years guaranteed, and it's the biggest for the Greek players that we've ever seen. BasketNews reported it. So I think that's something that, you know, it's hard to say no to. And if I think on the Olympiacos side, I think about Spanulis, great player, a legend, right? When you held on to him too long at the end, you know, I don't want to be disrespectful, but Olympiacos was a shell of themselves. They were unable to get to the playoffs. They could not play well. They almost didn't care about playing in the Greek league, just playing one game a week to kind of preserve his body, doing all this thing. They saw Spanoulis age, and they saw a guy whose game start to drop, but his mindset stayed the same. I want the ball. I want you to play it through me. I want these minutes. And I think they were avoiding a situation where you see Sloukas start to age. I'm not saying he's going to age. I'm not saying he's not going to be at the same level. I don't know. Only he knows how he prepares, and God willing, how his body progresses these next years. But in my experience, I would say with a guy who's getting older, maybe a 2-year deal. After that, it should be year by year basis when you hit 35 years old, because you never know what can happen. And it's just how I would approach it. And so I understood where Olympiacos was coming from. I'm 35 years old. If I continue, I know the rest of my career I'll be on 1-year deals, and I'm okay with that. And so just thinking from that perspective, he has to have some type of understanding that they're not disrespecting you. They're trying to preserve the organization, and they seen what happened, and it took them 3 years to recover. And to finally transition the team. And I think they were avoiding that situation, because that's what would have happened if you signed that 3-year deal and you're still trying to run your offense through a 36-year-old at the EuroLeague level.
Right. I agree. The only thing I would say about that is that, the Bartzokas system, like it kind of saves them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you age that way, playing those minutes, you're going to play 10 minutes here, you're going to play 10 minutes there. I think that helps you as you age, because you can warm up, you can do all these things where it's not like a kind of get in, get out kind of situation. So, I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying about how Olympiacos saw, Spanoulis kind of towards the end of his career. So, I mean, it makes sense for Sloukas to make that move if that's kind of what he wanted. If he wanted the ball more, if he wanted more responsibility, he wanted to, go get a big payday and, try to bring Panathinaikos, out of where they've been for the last couple of years. But I agree. I feel you.
He's gonna have to carry them.
Yeah.
And at that salary, it's not easy carrying a team. I mean, Shane, he's gonna have to lead. He's every night. 10 points ain't gonna be enough. 4 assists, it's not gonna be enough. Not for $3 million. So he's gonna really have to. He's not there. He's gonna really have to put his foot on the gas and lead them, because at that price and leaving Olympiacos, he's going to be under immense pressure. I wish him the best. I hope it's a good situation. I hope he's happy. But I know what lies ahead for him, and I think he does too.
Yeah, and I think, he grew up there. He knows that. So at the end of the day, I think he walking into the situation, understanding what he's walking into. I don't think if anybody understands it, he does. So that's something that at this part of his career, he wanted to take on as a challenge, and wish the guy the best of luck. So see how it goes.
Yeah, it feels like it's a win-win situation for both sides, as you mentioned. And that's a good point about Spanoulis' legacy in the last years of his legacy, let's say. I didn't think about that for Olympiacos. Maybe it's a good... Of course, they're not happy that he's going to their fierce rivals team. I mean, Panathinaikos, they would be more happier if he was wearing Fenerbahce jersey at the moment. But yeah, maybe it was about to move on from him, or just avoid this long-term contract and relationship with Sloukas giving team in his hands. Speaking of safety, I'm not sure if this information is correct, but let's say I've heard it from one solid Greek source that at least 5 bodyguards are around Sloukas' house right now, which makes sense, and probably a cup of coffee or lunch somewhere, in the city center is something that he will have to wait for some time right now. And the situation.
Smart man.
Yeah.
They'll be there for years. I wouldn't go anywhere without my bodyguards.
For sure.
They'd be outside my kid's school. They'd be outside my kid's school.
For sure.
Yeah, it just took a lot of guts to take this decision for Sloukas. A lot of can argue that, okay, crazy money were on the table, but as you mentioned, you also sacrifice a lot of things. You put a lot of things in danger, and probably only time will show who will come out as a winner from this whole situation. But there was this one particular moment where I really wanted to hear your opinion, because the main reason, as you already also kind of mentioned it, and which was widely reported in Greek media, the main reason why Sloukas left Olympiacos was the lack of connection with Coach Bartzokas in the last months of his tenure in Olympiacos, lack of recognition to Sloukas as a star player regarding minutes, even public recognition, or just meeting some needs of a star player of a team. And of course, Bartzokas didn't make a last phone call during the negotiations between Olympiacos and Sloukas, something what Sloukas wanted from his side. So I just wanted to hear from you as also, let's say, leaders of your teams. What relationship, what conditions you expect from your head coach when you're a leader of a team, or what kind of communication were you expected from your head coach if you were in Sloukas' shoes?
Eric's had more coaches than me, so he can answer that one first.
Yeah, for me, I think I just like honesty. Where you see me at, how you see me helping you, what's my role on the team, what do you need me to do? I'm 35 years old. I'm not a child. I don't need to be handheld. I don't need to be motivated. I can do all that on my own. I just need to know where you see me and the team and what you need me to do on a day-to-day basis. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to handle that. If you got a problem with me or something I do, come to me. Don't go to the media. Don't go behind my back. Don't do that. Like, just come to me. If I have a problem with something that you're doing, I think that communication can be very helpful. If he is worried about a lack of connection with Bartzokas, I can tell you this: he will have zero connection with Ataman. He shows his love through salary, through giving you the ball, and through minutes. There will be zero connection, but that will be his love. That's his love language. So he loves him because 100%. He was behind that offer. He's going 100%. To put the ball in his hand, and he's going to get all the minutes he wants. So 100%. If you're looking for him to know about your family, about your day-to-day, your life, there will be zero of that. But you just have to go in and understand that. I think he'll put him in positions to succeed. I think he's actually a good player for Ataman's system. Heavy pick and roll, high usage. He'll play him 30 minutes a night. He has to stay healthy. If he can do that, he'll be extremely happy with the role reversal he had in Olympiacos. But I think that's just the biggest thing, because a lot of teams aren't open with things. You know, if I feel like a player's not playing at that level, I'm okay with that. Come talk to me. Tell me, Eric, you're not doing what you need to do. This is what I need from you. And I think that makes the team better, because if you can have that conversation with me and you can do that with me privately, you can do it with me in front of the team, then that allows you to be able to speak to anyone like that, because they'll see that you're coming at Errick McCollum at that, or Shane Larkin. Dang, he talked to Shane about him needing to step up. I know I got to get my stuff together. And I think that's kind of where it all starts and where you can build on that. And you just have to know the type of character and person you're dealing with, because everybody can't handle tough coaching. But if you get if you're a leader of a team, and if you're somebody who's supposed to be the focal point of the offense and the voice, then you need to be okay with being coached hard, so that you can also, lift up your teammates and coach and lift. And when the coach isn't paying attention or doing certain things, you can go there and be there for him, because the coach can only talk so much. Like, eventually players tone him out, and you need a leader to step in and do that. That's why bets are important.
Yeah, I agree with everything Eric said. I think just having that open respect for each other of exactly what you expect from me. Just tell me what you need me to do, how you want me to do it, and I'm gonna do my best to do that. Obviously, I think being a leader, your leash is going to be a little bit longer, just because of who you are and what you represent to that team. But as long as the coach can be honest with you about how he's feeling about what you're doing and what he needs more of you or less of you, I think that kind of creates that, a two-way street where you can go back and forth and form some kind of relationship that, leaders or guys who are on teams that are, more important, will feel comfortable about. And I don't know exactly what went on with that whole negotiation with Sloukas and Bartzokas, but I think if they would have had that conversation, maybe it would have been better, or maybe that the situation wouldn't have happened. But I think just having open communication and exactly what you expect from one another is what makes that transition seamless.
Yeah, Shane, you were in kind of similar situation at the end of the season with Efes in the EuroLeague, and there was, this famous tweet about you playing 20 minutes in basically the most decisive game of the season, which decided the fate of the missing EuroLeague playoffs for Efes. I believe that you guys didn't talk the situation out with Coach Ataman, right? So how, when you kind of feel there's a need of explanation or just conversation to clear out the whole situation, what to do having that kind of coach, that type of coach, who's basically you're speaking to all, but you need answers as a player, to calm yourself down, just to feel confident with your position. How did you try to get out of that situation? How did you try to read that situation at the moment?
It's always, Eric can tell you, and coach doesn't explain much to you about what he does. He does what he does, and what he believes in is what he's going to do. And for whatever reason during that game, he felt like not having me on the floor was what he thought was going to give us the best chance to win. So I think it just depends on who the coach is and what your relationship is. Like I said, Ataman isn't the kind of guy that is going to come to you and explain to you why he did this. Often he may do it very randomly, one off, but he's not the kind of coach that you're going to have that open dialogue with on a day-to-day basis as to what you're thinking of, how you're feeling, or what your body like. It'll be, maximum 45 1-minute conversations with him about how do you feel, how's your body, can you play? Yeah, and that'll be it. Or how do you feel? Do you want to come off the bench? Do you want to start? All right, I'm thinking this. Okay, it's like that. That's kind of like it's not no 10-minute, 15-minute conversation about what you think and how we're going to approach this. It's not that. And he has a style and he's had success with it. So, me specifically in that game, like you said, it was probably the most important game of the season. And I felt like I was playing pretty decent. And for me to play 20 minutes in a game like that as one of the leaders, that, it's frustrating in that situation, because I know if we don't make the playoffs, people are going to point fingers at me. People are going to point fingers at Will. People are going to point fingers at Vasa. So if that's the situation, I feel like those guys should kind of be on the floor. And in that situation, I wasn't. And I played whatever amount of minutes I played in that game. And it was just frustrating. And, I never say anything on Twitter. I'm not a big social media guy. I don't do any of that. But at that point, when it kind of hit set in stone that we weren't going to be in the playoffs, at that moment, I was just like, all right, man, I got to say something, because it doesn't make sense to me. And I just want to see if other people feel me on this. So that's kind of why I put it out there. And obviously the responses were whatever they were. But that's kind of just how I went about that process. And obviously you wake up the next day and it is what it is. It sucks that you're not going to be in the playoffs, but just kind of move on and focus on the next opportunity.
No, I felt you. I understood you for sure. I think there's probably 8 to 10 guys in the EuroLeague who I'm going to ride with them, whether they're playing great, whether they're playing bad, because they can impact the game so many ways. It might be scoring. It might be just them on the court demanding attention. I think yourself, Vasa, Will, Mike James, Nikola Mirotic, Kevin Punter, Lorenzo Brown, those are some of the guys that, Walter Tavares, no matter how bad they're playing, no matter what's going with the game flow, if I sign them, I pay you guys. I'm not going to put your bread out there. I'm not going to put all your money out there and embarrass y'all. Get people back on. But if I pay you guys a lot of money, I'm not going to not use you in the clutch time. And I know sometimes, players have off games or, things aren't flowing, but there's so many things that those type of guys that I named can do outside of the box seat that doesn't really get noticed. Might be drawing 2 people, might be opening up the lane, creating different things. So, but those are just to let you know, you were not in the wrong. It's not normal. You see it in the NBA. That's why they pay the max players, and those guys are playing, whether they're 2 for 20, 2 for 22. You're not subbing out LeBron James or those type of guys. And when you look at the EuroLeague, the top guys, it's the same type of format for most teams. You would see it all the time back in the day when Spanulis would maybe be struggling in a panic game, and then he would go crazy in the fourth quarter and take it over. So that's the type of stuff that we're used to seeing. So, I think, Adam had done an excellent job with you guys throughout the years, but I understood the frustration. I would have been frustrated in that moment, just because not only, who you are as a player, but what you have done for the organization and lifting Efes. So I feel like when you're a main guy, you got to ride with me in the dark or in the light.
Right. Yeah. And that's another part of the frustration that, obviously you talk to everybody after the game and it's like, why this, why that? And it's like, I could understand if it was a new coach and he hadn't been on that sideline witnessing what has been happening for the last 5 years. But, I've had games where I had 0 points after 3 quarters and I end with 20. So it's like, he knows I have that instant ability to kind of turn it on. So for me not even to be able to be out there to have that chance in a game like that, was definitely frustrating. So, I mean, it is what it is now, but it was definitely frustrating. And
As we spoke with Eric before the podcast, I mean, now we're speaking about those communication things that coach should be communicating with players more. Team maybe in general should be something closer to a family. Coach should not, overload players with tactical adjustments, but should still make some tweaks. And sometimes it feels like Coach Ataman does a lot of things opposite, as we understand as a perfect coach, right? So how would you explain what makes Ataman special and successful? Not special, successful, because he's a back-to-back champ. He had a lit chance of, winning a three-peat. He had a lot of success in Turkey, in Eurocup champion with Errick and Galatasaray. What makes him successful? What's the main secret of Errick and Ataman?
I think the best thing that Ataman does is I think he understands talent. And I think he knows his system, and he sees guys who can be successful within that system, and he brings them there, and he kind of just says, go. And however that happens, he kind of tries to form it after that. But I think he has a great eye for talent, and specifically for the talent that he recruits for his system. And I think once he gets those pieces in place, he kind of allows those guys to kind of just go. And then based on the success or the failures of that initial go, he kind of forms it after that. And I mean, I was with him at Efes for 5 years, and the first season I was coming off the bench pretty much all season. I was not in the rotation because initially he was like, go. And I wasn't going the way that I should have been going. So at the end of the day, he was like, all right, you're not playing the way that I like you to be playing right now. So you're going to come right over here and sit next to me. And we're going to go with Roddy and Kruno and Vasa. And we'll continue to give you opportunities until you find that. However, if you're not going to be the guy that I want you to be, I'm not going to throw you out there for those 25, 30 minutes. And I think eventually, obviously, we found that rhythm and that continuity. But I think that's his strongest suit, is that he gives players confidence in terms of allowing them to be out there. And if you have a longer leash to make those mistakes and kind of work through those things so that, once you do find yourself inside that system with those players on that roster, you can kind of go out there and be free and not play with, that mental block in your mind, that every single mistake you're going to make, you're going to come out. And that's, Eric could probably tell you, it's only a couple guys on the roster that have that with Ataman. But if you do get that with Ataman and those players are playing at an elite level, his teams have that success, which is why he won a chip with Eric and why he's won some championships with, me and Vasa kind of being the head of the snake the last couple of years. So I think that's what makes him successful. I think that's his greatest talent, is that.
No, you hit it right on the head. Number one, Ataman is the best GM in Europe. There's something about how he finds players and can see, like Shane said, how they fit in each system, how they're going to fit with his system, how he's going to use them. And he gets the max out of them. Like, he gets the max out of you because, strangely enough, even though he doesn't talk to you much, he doesn't develop a relationship, he's an excellent motivator. He knows how to piss you off in the worst moments.
Exactly.
Whether it's through the media, whether it's a subtle shot where you have practice after a game, and he looks at the score sheet and he goes through the lineup and he says, everyone is off practice except those guys who play 23 minutes or less. You look at the lineup, let's say Errick McCollum had a bad game. He played 22 minutes and 58 seconds. I'm like, damn, I have practice. Or Shane Larkin played 22 minutes. And you're like, so like, he knows how to motivate you. If you're missing shots in games, he'll say practice is over. And then he'll say, everyone could go home except for Shane and Eric. You have to get 200 makes. And you're looking like, because you were 0 for 6 last game, and you're just like, what I will say, he's an excellent GM. He can assemble the team. He's a master, a motivator, and manipulator. And he doesn't care to be the bad guy. Like, he'll say something, kiss you off. And he knows if he knows your character or knows enough about you, he knows how you respond. He knows if he says something about a player in the media, he says something about Will's going to be like, what? Okay.
Right.
I'm going to go show you. Shane's going to be like, I'm going to show you. Same way. Okay. I'm going to show you. I'm going to shut you up. And he knows that about those players. So that's what makes him special. And then that freedom. When you're the main guy or the main top 3 guys and you're one of the most paid on the team, he's going to allow you to be yourself. Shane was excellent in Baskonia, but the level he got to at Efes was something different. All throughout Europe, I was excellent too, but the level I got to with him to win that championship and then that was something different. Vasa, as Zalgiris, he was okay. He was more of a defensive guard. People questioned if he could run the offense. He got to Efes, different guy, score, off the dribble, pick and roll, creation. I was impressed extremely. So you look at these guys, and he's really good with guards and getting the most out of them. And I think you're going to see it with Jerry and Grant. I think you're going to see him really make some noise this year. Sloukas obviously is a guy who, does good throughout the years. So I don't think that will be a surprise to see him playing well. But that's what he does. He's a guard whisperer when it comes to getting guys who can play at a high level, who can create their own offense and letting it rock.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
What do you think of Panathinaikos off-season moves? He brought Kostas Sloukas, Jerian Grant, Luka Vildoza, Kyle Guy, Yanis Papapetrou, Dinos Mitoglou, Kostas Antetokounmpo, Matthias Lezort, and from what I hear, they're like still 1 or 2 moves away from completing the roster, and they might be some big names, big players. Does this team has ingredients to be successful, particularly Ataman's team? And if they're finally, after all those years, they're ready to match Olympiacos' dominance in the Greek league and maybe to challenge their dominance in the Greek league?
One thing is missing. He has the guards. He has the fan support. He has the budget. He has the tradition, the power, the team with respect. It's the shooting at the big position. What made him so successful those years in Efes is he always had a 5-spacer, someone to keep the paint open so that Shane and Vasa could get in there and could create. There's a pick and pop action. You can't be too aggressive on the pick and hedge or trap, because if you do, Tibor Pleiss can pop and kill you from that jumper, from that mid-range, from that 3. You look back before that, it was Sertaj Sinali, who was at Barcelona. He was a guy that destroyed teams, in that pick and pop. Ataman's offense is predicated on the 4-man that can shoot the skin off the ball and the 5-man who can stretch the defense. Right now, they're missing that 4-man shooter and that 5-man pop guy. Until they get that, his offense will not thrive, because there will be no space for the guards to create, and people will be able to be aggressive on those screens or pack the paint in certain opportunities when they have. So I need to see that 4 and 5 that can shoot get signed and Vin. Then I'll think that they're ready to take that leap and to be a contender for the playoffs.
And to be honest, just make it short, I was surprised that he didn't bring Mike Tobey. When he was available on the market, I thought that Mike Tobey could be a perfect piece for Ataman's center lineup. So I was surprised to see Tobey going to Red Star, not to Panathinaikos. And from the current market, looking at centers who can stretch the floor, the list is not too long. So they might need to be creative with those big men who can stretch the floor. And it might be not easy, but since Panathinaikos is willing to open their wallet, they still might find some good solutions.
Yeah. I think Eric hit it on the head. I think being able to find that spacing at the big position with the 4 and 5 allows those guards to be able to, have the space to get downhill and drive and kick in and kick and pass out to the 3-point line to whoever's out there. And that's what made our offense so dangerous over the last 5 years, having 5 guys on the floor who could shoot at all times, because you don't really know where to help from. So I think they definitely have a great influx of talent. Obviously, adding Sloukas, Vildoza, Grant, and Kyle Guy. I think those guards are more quality than they've had over the last few seasons. I'm not saying those guys are bad players. I just think as a whole collective, I think they have a better group at the guard position. I think Lezort gives them something similar to what they had last year with Papianis, but just a different kind of like beast kind of like energy. which he would definitely play with the fans, play up that energy in the building. So they have a lot of the pieces that they need. But I think, like Eric said, we just have to add that shooting from the big spot. And once they do that, I think, they have a great opportunity to, make some noise. I think for them, I think Grant and Kyle Guy have to make big jumps because, I think Kyle Guy's, I'm just comparing them to like kind of what we looked like over the last 5 years. That's all I have to compare it to. And, I think Sloukas, pick and roll heavy, very talented in the pick and roll. You saw how he, played really well in the playoffs all the way into the final game. Vildoza's had success. He was really good at Red Star before Campazzo got there this year. He really had them starting to go. And then when they added Campazzo, they obviously, got much better. But I think those guys are kind of who they are. And, they may take a jump and they may take another step. But I think Sloukas at his age is kind of who he's going to be. Vildoza might take that jump. But I think you need Grant or Guy to take that next step. Grant was in Milan, didn't really get a great opportunity. Takes a lesser role, not a lesser role, but lesser job at Telecom, has an unbelievable season, plays really well, and then gets himself back to the EuroLeague with momentum. I think Guy had a great year in Badalona. So, if those guys can take that jump this year, and I think Kyle Guy can be similar to like what Roddy was for us. If they can take that jump and, go to that next level, I think, they'll be very, very competitive every single night. And, in terms of the playoffs, there's 10 spots now. So, you just gotta be one of 10. So, we'll see how that goes. But I think they're a few pieces away from being exactly what they need to be, but they're definitely on the way.
Yeah. The best part is that, this Greek derby is going to be very interesting. And the best part is that EuroLeague announced the schedule, which will make Olympiacos and Panathinaikos game in round 1. Yeah. I love this move a lot. You start the season with a bang, and especially with the turbulent summer that both teams had. All love and all respect to Serbian derby of Partizan and Zvezda. This is something that we're all gonna tune in on EuroLeague TV at the start of the season. And the best part is that you kind of still, keep this intrigue for the remainder part of the season when Sloukas will visit Olympiacos gym. That's gonna be another, huge game. So it was smart to put this first game in Oaxaca. And I believe that this one, a lot of basketball fans and a lot of basketball people will mark red on their calendars. And I just thought, Shane, do you have something like games you mark in the calendar? Do you have your most anticipated game for the upcoming season?
Everybody wants me to say Pana, right? That's what everybody would like me to say. So I guess if you could say one, just to play against Coach after being with him for so long, that'll be fun. That'll be exciting. Just to see what he's gonna do. He was on this side of it for so long, and I'm sure he saw how people started defending us over the last couple of years. So just to see like what kind of plays he's going to run, what kind of system he's going to run defensively, how he's going to go at us offensively, what they're going to run against us. I think it'll be fun and exciting just to be on the other side of it for once. So if there's any game, I guess it'll be that one. But, I got the whole season circled, to be honest, because I just felt like last year just wasn't me at all. So I got the whole season scheduled, if I'm being honest.
And I have a guess that Will marked Fenerbahce games red in his calendar, right?
Maybe.
Can you expand on him facing Fenerbahce and all these things that surrounds him?
Will's a special character, man, and he thrives. He thrives in those moments. It helps him. It helps him go. So that's really all it is. He has a lot of love and respect for Fener and their fans and all that. But just that, those things that you do to try to kind of set yourself off. I think Will is kind of doing that with Fener and being inside that intense kind of rivalry, which he has not had in his career. Being in CSKA, like, who's your rival in CSKA? Like, I don't think there's that basketball culture where, those emotions get involved. In Russia, although it's great basketball, a lot of talent, I just don't think those raw emotions are there. And I think, the Serbian derby, the Greek derby, and now what Efes and Fener is kind of turning into with all the success we've had over the last few years. For him to be a part of that, I think, just, doing the back and forth and going at it with fans and just, trolling them on social medias and stuff like that. I think it's just a way to get himself going and motivate himself more in those games, because those games are more than just win or loss. Those are like, just so much more important than just a win or loss in the win or loss column. So I think that's all he's doing. And, hopefully he has a whole season circled as well, because we were talking about, and that was the first time we both missed the playoffs in our EuroLeague career. So I think we're both coming back with, a vengeance for next season.
Yeah, I saw them on Instagram. He tweeted he's locked in July 11th. You said already?
Yeah, already. Already? All right. Okay. Right. Exactly. So it'll be fun, man.
Guys, Kostas Sloukas' move to Pana was probably the second most shocking move after Spanulis switched sides from Panathinaikos to Olympiacos like many years ago. And we are on the verge of having another transfer bomb this summer. It's not official yet, and anything can happen. But let's say Nikola Mirotic joins Partizan. And I have a question for Eric. Does Nikola Mirotic signing makes Partizan a title contender? And that would be probably a question for both. If we actually have any favorites in the EuroLeague, isn't it like we have like 8 or 10 title contenders with the way how offseason goes and the way teams are so equal? They were so equal. It was a historically equal race already last year, but I can't wait for another for the upcoming season.
Before Eric answers that, I want to ask you. I want you to answer that first. Who would you be if going into next season? There's been so much turnaround in EuroLeague. Going into next season, who would you say are the Final Four teams? You have to say 4. You have to say 4. Who would you say?
I can't
It's
name
tough,
4.
right?
I can name 8 or 10 teams. Exactly.
Exactly.
We had the same question in the previous part, and I was like, "There's no lock. There's no Final Four lock." Yeah. Some might say that maybe Real Madrid because of the
I think you have to say that.
You got to say that. Right. You have to. You have to say that. You know how Campazzo fits. You know how he fits there.
Yeah.
He takes the bars to another level.
Yeah. Yeah,
but other than that, I remember I told last year I said that Milan and Efes, they're Final Four locks for sure. So my take, aged badly. So I'm not taking those takes anymore. Maybe Real Madrid and others, it's an open race.
Yeah. All right, my bad, Eric.
That's a good question. No, harping on that. That's tough, but I think there's no guarantee just because the balance in the EuroLeague. The gap is closing. A lot of turnover, a lot of changes. We know how players look on their old teams. We haven't yet seen how they're going to look on their new team in a new system surrounded by a new cast of players. So it makes it tough. But with that said, if I had to guess, I'm putting Madrid in there just because it's a Tavares factor. Obviously he has the, be there under center. They're bringing him back to core. The main pieces, adding Campazzo, they're there. I do believe. I don't know which one, but I think Efes or Fener will make the Final Four. I don't know which one, but I think one of those two teams. I mean, Fener was all new last year. Now they're going to all be in the second year of the system. Guys are going to know what a Tudis wants. They're adjusting. They'll be there. Efes has a new coach, but they have their core returning. So all those guys know how to play together. Everyone will adjust accordingly. People know their roles. It will be easier fit, even though it's a new coach. Partizan, I do like Mirotic there. I think he gives him that space and that shooting, the ability to play the 4 and the 5. I wish Barcelona would have paid him more as a 5 as well. I think it's an ultimate mismatch. The way he can stretch the floor, he has the size. He played some 5 before in the lead, but it seems like they use him strictly as a 4. I love to see him and Punter in the pick and pop situations in that middle pick and roll. I think that could be special. Like to see Zach Lede sometimes playing the 5 and Mirotic at the 4. Just little tweaks and stuff. I'm sure Abramovich has lots of stuff put together, but I don't quite know if they're a Final Four team just because, the point guard play, it was something that, they didn't have last year and they were able to kind of get through to get hot at the right time. They had hoopers. They didn't really have a point guard or somebody to kind of, man the team, get everybody in their spots. And with XM leaving, with Jan Mader going to Finner, I'm wondering who's going to be that guy to kind of direct traffic, to kind of make sure Punter gets the ball, to make sure if Mirotic signs it, make sure he gets his touches. There has to be someone who's willing to sacrifice and run the team. And it can't be all people who want to go get buckets. It's just not going to work. So I think they're going to look, they're going to find somebody, they have to. And Serbian teams, have hit the lottery. They found a lot of money lately. So I'm sure it won't be an issue. But I think if I had to say a fourth team that I think is in the mix, maybe Maccabi. Maybe they'll be ready to make that leap. I feel like they were right there. Last year, they're returning the whole core. They did a good job of signing everybody back. Only problem is they got to get a little bit better defensively. They're really good offensively. They get up and down, but defensively, I feel like they give up too many easy baskets, too many points. And I know they just want to outscore you. But, to make that Final Four, you're going to have to guard. Even in Efes, there was an offensive power. When the money was on the line, when things mattered, they turned up on defense in the playoffs. Maybe in the regular season, they relaxed. They just outscore you. But in the playoffs, you would start to see them be able to hone in, to defend, to do different things defensively. So I think those are the top teams I would say for me. We'll see how it plays out. But Efes, Finner.
Hey, so you're not going to throw Monaco in there? They were just in the 4. They were just in the Final Four.
But I had to pick 4. I could only pick 4. I like Monaco. I like Monaco. If I had a top 5, they're in there for sure. Anytime you got a player like Mike, you resign your whole core, you keep the same coaching staff. I mean, they have everything. The only thing that they're missing is that fan support that those other teams have. True. Finner's going to pack the gym. Now you guys pack the gym in EuroLeague. They don't really come in Turkish league, but they pack the gym in EuroLeague. And you look at those situations, that kind of helps. It influences games. But I like Monaco. I had them going to beat Olympiacos and everything. And I was just didn't happen. But they're right there. They're right there. Yeah. And I think their lack of shooting at the 4 and 5 position is what gives me pause. That's the only thing I don't like, and it's what's hurt them the last couple of years in the money time.
True that. True. I agree. I mean, if Mirotic goes to, Partizan, obviously, I think he's probably been the most consistent, player in the EuroLeague over the last 4 or 5 years. I think he's always around, 17 points, 20 PIR, he's always kind of right around there. And I think him going to somebody like Obradovic is just that's like clockwork. I think they're going to be able to figure that out very easily. And he's going to be able to find the ways to put him in spaces similar to how, they had him in Barcelona, where he can be extremely successful. But like, Eric said, I think they do need to find that point guard in order to help them. But, I think bringing Punter back, the only thing like that, I think Lesort was like the heart of that team. That's the one thing that I question. Like, I think Punter was like the guy. He is the guy. He deserves to be the guy. He's shown that he can be the guy. The big shots down the stretch. He's risen to, be one of the top players in the league. No doubt about it. I just feel like Lesort was that connection between them and the fans, that it just happened seamlessly. And I think they still will have that. They have amazing fans. And they still will have that crazy fan base there. And obviously bringing a player of Mirotic caliber there, if he does go there, will obviously help them kind of make up for the lack of not having Exum and some of those guys. But I think you have to see who else they sign in order to call them, championship contenders right now. I think they're right there. They just need to figure out who their point guard is going to be. And I think, they're well on their way. And in terms of the Final Four and trying to pick those teams, that's tough. Excluding Efes, let's just say I don't go Efes because I'm there. I think you have to say Madrid. And then it really is a toss-up. It really is a toss-up. I think Maccabi is right there. Monaco's right there. Finner obviously is right there. So I think it'll be interesting outside of that to see who takes that jump and puts himself kind of what Maccabi did this year. Maccabi wasn't necessarily everybody didn't necessarily think of Maccabi as a team that was going to go to the Final Four this year, and then, they're one game away from it. So it'll be interesting to see which team takes that jump this year. And it's definitely more wide open than it's ever been since I've been here. Like there's definitely more opportunities to somebody to come in and surprise people this year.
Throughout this whole conversation, mentioning so many good teams, you didn't mention Zvezda. They made a lot of moves, and I want you guys to finish this sentence. To play against this Zvezda team with Teodosic, Shabazz Napier, Iago dos Santos, Nemanja Nedovic, Branko Lazic, Rokas Giedraitis, Adam Hanga, Luka Mitrovic, Mike Tobey, Joel Bolomboy, Nick Popovic, Marko Simonovic, will be like?
One word will be I would say interesting, because at the end of the day, that's 8 new players. Like, you don't know how that's it, so you don't know how they're gonna fit and how they're gonna gel. But in terms of talent, I mean, they're right there with anybody. You can't, look at their roster and look somewhere else and say that team's way more talented than them, because I think they did a great job of bringing in veteran guys that know what it takes to get over the hump. And then they also have that young influx of young guys that are hungry to prove that they are willing to or ready to make that jump and perform at a high level in the EuroLeague. So I would say interesting. I don't know what other word I would use for them, but they definitely have the talent. They definitely will have the fan support. And obviously they have a coach that has a track record of going in and cleaning things up and getting teams to win. So they'll be definitely an interesting team to watch and see how they develop as the season goes along.
Yeah, I think maybe energetic is what I use for them. I think they have at home they'll be electric. They'll be really good. They'll bring it. Not sure how they'll be on the road. Think you'll see some ups and downs in their season just based on their coach. He's a good coach, but his practices are brutal. He really tests you mentally and physically. And I'm wondering, can Milos get through that all season, playing in the EuroLeague, playing in the Adriatic League, having those tough practices?
This is my question, though. I don't mean to interrupt you, bro. There's no way he signs there if there's not a conversation before that. Yeah. There's no way.
I'm a hard worker, but man, I heard about his practices. I heard about how things go there. That's not a place a lot of players desire. His preseasons are brutal. So I'm wondering, the way he does have guys prepared. He does take them to another level. The question is, can you stay healthy? Like, that's the hardest thing. You're going to be in your best shape of your life. You're going to be out there flying on the court, playing fast. You're going to be playing great. It's just, can you stay healthy? I love Shabazz there. His creation, the way he scores, he runs a team, he defends. I think they have the makings of something special. They lack a true scorer. They need someone who can go get a bucket, who can create something out of nothing when the offense is stagnant, when the plays aren't working. That's what they need. And I think, especially when you have a team with so many new players, no stability yet, no roles developed, no one knows where they fit in. Everyone's going to be trying to grab a piece of pizza, right? And there's only so many slices. So I'm wondering who's going to be left without, how that affects the team. Are everybody going to be happy with the size of their piece? And that's what determines, how teams adjust, how they fit. Usually teams with so many changes struggle early in the EuroLeague, and then they come on strong later in the year, as you start to see with some of those guys and some of those teams who added players late. They started to kind of turn it on late and, make a run and make a playoff push. Some didn't make it, but, you've seen it with Valencia start to, try to turn it on. Red Star, all those teams trying to get close to that 8th spot. So for me, I think there's still, now with the play-in, they have a chance. But if it was the old top 8 format, I would think they're barely on the outside looking in, just because the EuroLeague is so tough and everyone's bringing back the core. And I don't believe Red Star has a core. That's my only pause there. So it's not and I don't think they're talented. They are extremely, but I just think a lot of other teams are a little bit more talented.
And Eric, I had a question for you. Since they got Shabazz Napier, the top 10 scorer in the EuroLeague from the last season, since they already have from the last year Nemanja Nedovic, top 15 scorer in the EuroLeague, Iago dos Santos, top 20 best scorer in Germany, and Milos Teodosic, of course, the maestro of basketball in Europe. Do you think that they have bigger upside offensively when the last year's team with Campasso and Vildoza? How would you compare their offensive strength?
And Campazzo gets after the ball. He's going to press full court. He's extremely fast laterally. He can kind of like take guards out of what they're comfortable doing. I don't think they have that. I think Shabazz is a solid defender, but he's not going to guard 94 feet and dictate the offense, play 28, 29 minutes, average 15 to 16 points, 5, 6. I mean, it's just not possible. You got to be a machine to do that and then practice with that coach. So, I don't think he's going to be able to do that. I think he'll be a great player. He'll play well, but I think defensively, they'll take a drop in the backcourt. I mean, you're going to have Milos out there, who's going to preserve himself for offense. He's probably going to be in that 18 to 22 minute range. I can't imagine him pressing the ball, denying. He's probably going to try to find him on the worst, offensive player, so that he can be special offensively. That's what he does. And then Shabazz can guard, but Red Star is a team that likes to press. They like to be physical. They like to change the game, and that mentality is bred into the Serbian players, young Serbian players. So when you play the experienced guys, Nedovic isn't pressing full court. Milos not pressing full court. Like, it takes away from their identity. So I'm sure they can sub and play those guys, but you bring in Milos, you bring in Shabazz, they're going to play heavy minutes. So I think now this is a year you're going to see them transfer to more of an offensive team, which is something you don't really see in Red Star as a Serbian team. They're a team that usually struggles to find points, and they usually are one of the best defensive teams in the EuroLeague. And I don't know if that's just because of their pressure or their lack of pace and their patience on offense, because they can't find early shots in offense. So, but I think you'll see maybe a tide turn there and Serbia start to look for a little bit more offense.
Guys, we mentioned a lot of big names in this podcast. Sloukas, Mirotic, Shane, Will, a lot of EuroLeague stars. There was a lot of movement during this offseason, but what would be the most underrated move of the EuroLeague offseason so far?
Underrated move.
For me, I'll say it's probably something that people aren't going to consider, but it's underrated. It's something you don't expect. I think Carson Edwards going to Munich. I think he can play. I've seen his talent. A lot of people don't know. They probably question, but I mean, he can score. He's fast. He's quick. He's strong. He's explosive. He can shoot at range, off the bounce, catch and shoot. He gets to the hole, finishes left or right. He reminds me a lot of Shane, and, you see those similarities. I'm thinking Munich is a chance he's going to get to show himself. I feel like there should have been more minutes for him in Fener. Feel like he was not utilized properly. And when he did get opportunities, he showed what he could do. In the crunch time, that showed me that the coaches knew what he was capable of. In elimination games and do or die series against Olympiacos, they trusted him. I'm thinking he's going to take a leap. This was his first year in Europe. He's adjusting not only to the style of play, but being away from home, seeing how things work here. Expect a big leap for him and expect him to make some noise in Munich and, probably to return to the top ranks or the top EuroLeague team next year after a dominant year. He'll be a top 5 or 4 scorer. I'd be shocked if he wasn't.
Yeah. I would say more so Lasso to Bayern was probably the most underrated move, because I think he's going to go there and implement his system that had been so successful in, Madrid for so many years. And having a guy like that, Carson, to be able to, go there and have the opportunity to be exactly who he wants to be is exactly what he needed, I think. So I think he's definitely going to have the opportunity to go there and have a big year. And I could definitely get behind that being probably one of the most underrated signings of the summer.
Well, you got
Carson is a good pick.
Who's yours?
I also had Carson on my list, but I want to be original as well to put another name, and I really liked James Webb signing by Maccabi Tel Aviv.
He's a good
in the market where it was really tough to find a good foreman who can stretch the ball, who can also play a lot of off ball for their great backcourt of Wade Baldwin, Lorenzo Brown, and whoever gonna join them as well. I really like James Webb. I think that Maccabi made a steal in my eyes. Great off-ball player. He was averaging like 8 points, 4 rebounds, and 38% of 3-point shooting. 41% of his points in catch and shoot situations, a lot of points from cuts, putbacks. That's something what Maccabi really needed. It's going to be his sophomore year in EuroLeague, so you can expect that he's going to be more matured, more polished, and will help Maccabi even more than he did in Valencia. And I already loved what he did in Valencia. So he turns 30, so he's at his peak. He should be a really nice fit to Maccabi.
Yeah, I like what Maccabi's done. I think Maccabi took a step last year, and I think, with some of the signings they've done, bringing back Nebo is big for them, I think. So I think they definitely have done a great job this summer and fine-tuning their roster and seeing what they could do next year.
And just a very last question I had to both of you. NBA introduced in-season tournament format a week ago or something. And since you've been of both sides, and the idea was to bring some, European football spirit to the NBA game, how do you feel about the format they presented? Don't you find it too confusing? Because me as a European, I really felt weird about them playing something like groups. I mean,
I don't even understand what they're doing it for. Like, what is the purpose? Why are they doing it? Just for what?
To give a chance for smaller market teams or just smaller teams in general to win some trophy during the season. But what does it really change?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's for money, like for ratings, to create more games, more TV streams, more do or die scenarios. I think they're trying to do it to keep the ratings high and they give a different flair. The NBA is constantly trying to be innovative and trying to do things new, but I don't think it's necessary. I think the NBA brand speaks for itself, but it's going to be very confusing for fans because they're not used to this type of format like we have in Europe.
Like, I would have put a game in, like how they've been having game in London, Paris, or what. I would just continue to put more games in Europe as opposed to an in-season tournament that I don't think, I know a lot of guys in the league. I don't think they're going to be so, like, motivated to, we got to win this tournament, Like, I think they're just going to look at it like, all right, well, we got to go play this, so let's go play it, see what happens. Because, like, the monetary incentive, they're all making good money. So, like, sure, it's going to be more money that you could win with the situation, but I just don't see the overall landscape of what it does to push the game or push the brand further. I didn't get it, but I mean, we'll see how it goes. It could end up being, exciting, and we'll see.
I think it gives something extra to the fans, but fans like to see more games. They like to see people in clutch situations, but like you said, guys are making 50, 60 million a year. To make 500,000 to 600,000 net, because it's 1 million. We have big taxes in the US. So 500,000 is not going to move a guy making 40, 50 million. You might see young players, rookies, bench guys, two-way guys. Those guys will be extremely motivated and excited. But the guy who makes 30 million off the court, he's playing just because he enjoys basketball at this point. Like, it's not going to be like, oh, I need an extra 500,000, which is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. But in the grand scheme of things, when you have a $200 million plus contract, 500,000 is just a drop in a bucket.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, what NBA does really good is how they keep the focus of the NBA fan basically through the whole calendar year. I mean, every 2-3 months they have something big. There's the start of the NBA season. There was Christmas games, All-Star game, trade deadline, end of the regular season, play-in tournament, playoffs, NBA finals, then NBA draft, start of the free agency, summer league, and it felt like there was this, let's say, small gap in the beginning of December when everybody gonna be, cool about the start of the season. Maybe they're gonna try to find for some new ways, how to be entertained more, and maybe that's what NBA tried to do, to bring some more excitement at the beginning of this December. But maybe there were better ways, let's say, to bring that excitement rather than this confusing NBA in-season tournament and the format they introduced. I really thought that it's going to be shorter, more clear, like 8 teams going to Vegas or something, to play 2-3 games and to win the title, and that's it. And now they have these group games, Tuesday tournament nights, Friday or Thursday tournament nights as well. I mean, it's just very confusing. Not sure if NBA fans can keep with this stuff up.
Yeah, it's very confusing, and like I said, I don't see guys in the league being so bought into it. They're like, we must win these games because we have to win this tournament. I don't think there's enough incentive on the side of those guys to, have them care that much about winning this game, even if it does come down to the last few seconds or whatever, and it's an exciting basketball game. I don't think there's much difference between that and a regular season game for those guys mentally, because like Eric said, 500,000 to, guys on those teams that are making 40, 50 million, and those salaries are only going to continue to rise. I don't think I don't know what this does for them. So like in Europe it's different. Like you win a cup, it's important. Like we won a cup. We won all the cups this year. It's important. But in NBA, I just think there's one cup that you want to get, and it's the championship at the end of the year. So yeah,
I think so much emphasis has been put on those finals, the NBA finals, that no one will take this tournament seriously. I think it doesn't enhance their legacies, their Hall of Fame credentials, their value. So that's where you're kind of going to lose the public and the players, because it doesn't have that symbolization of NBA finals. It's just not the same.
Okay, guys, it was a pleasant time together with you. In Lithuania, it's already 12:30. It's midnight, but I have to admit it was worth it. And it was worth the wait of this crazy sequence of Shane's elevator situation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just tell your wife for sure you were on the podcast. She can listen if she doesn't believe us, because 1 o'clock coming home with a baby is kind of late. Kind of late to us.
Exactly.
We don't.
Exactly. I'll co-sign.
I feel privileged. I feel privileged. That's why I'm doing all these print screens throughout the conversation and just sending my wife that, I'm doing the podcast. Nothing more, nothing else.
Understandable.
No, guys, really big pleasure to hear your thoughts, to see how you guys read some situations. And again, my whole idea is that maybe it will help, to broaden the knowledge of European basketball fans, and not just fans, but, players and coaches as well, soaking up this whole experience that you guys brought and got from the game throughout all these years. So yeah, thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, good time.
It was a pleasure. Appreciate you coming on the show, Shane.
Thanks for having me, brother. Glad to be here.